Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar titled Tile Trouble. I'm Jim Olson with the National Tile Contractors Association, and I want to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend today's webinar, which is sponsored by Daltile. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that during the webinar, you will be muted. Excuse me just for a minute. Could you, thank you. Could you just mute your microphones for a little bit? I'm getting back, all three of you. Thank you, that's great. I just want to remind all of you that are in attendance today that during the webinar, you'll be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your questions. We will answer your questions at the end of this presentation. If the audio on your computer is poor, please call the number on your invite to this webinar and listen on your phone. All right. All NTCA webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented. This should give you easy access to watch and or share all current and past programs at your convenience. Today's presenters are with Daltile. We have Whitney Welch, Vice President of Commercial Sales. We have Anne Randall, National Architect and Design Sales Manager, and Tony Sarria, Commercial Sales Manager. And I want to welcome all three of you. I'm very excited to hear your program and look forward to it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. And I guess I will kick us off here. We just are so excited to be here today. I would like to think we're the Daltile Dream Team for commercial. So as you heard our titles, we're going to show you some headshots here in a minute, but really excited to be here today. So with that, we prefer to shut our cameras off while we deliver content because we don't want you to miss a single word that we are saying or be distracted by our cameras. So with that, we're going to shut our cameras off and we're going to get started. Okie doke. So during 2020 and in 2021, we pivoted to a monthly virtual webinar series, Daltile did. I mean, there was a lot going on. Everybody was trying to figure out how to get into the virtual space. So these were 20 to 30 minute, really informative sessions based on our commercial A&D community. So the audience was architects and designers. So today we're going to discuss some common installation issues that you see on a commercial project and how you as a professional can become educated on what these issues are, what causes them, and how to avoid them. So at the end, we hope that this presentation gives you a better knowledge of some of maybe the pitfalls that you can avoid to ensure a smooth installation and a good working timeline. All right, so you just saw us on camera, but this is us on a good day here, our glamour shots. As Jim mentioned, I'm our Vice President of Commercial Sales, and I'm actually based out of Dallas, Texas, which is where the Daltile headquarters is, in South Dallas. And then Marianne is based in Atlanta, and what her focus is as the National A&D Sales Manager, she's honing in on those top 10 A&D accounts, for example, Gensler, and increasing specification and market share with those specific accounts nationally. And then Tony Sarria is a regional commercial sales manager for us, and he covers our Southeast and our Mid-South. And he relocated, gosh, I think, Tony, it's been a year ago now, from Miami to Nashville. So that is
a year and a half.
A year and a half, there you go. So that's our dream team for today. We've been presenting together, the three of us, gosh, for a couple years throughout all of this, and we've really enjoyed, you know, Marianne puts all the content together, and then Tony and I get to show up and help her deliver her dream. So let's get into the agenda. We're going to take 8 topics that could have probably been their own with the amount of volume and presentation you could talk to this, but what we're going to do is strip it down to really just what you need to know and to make sure that you don't get into tile trouble. I know it looks like a lot, but I promise we're going to stick to the high points and mixing in a little bit of technical information that's digestible. So we mentioned that there can be a lot of pitfalls to watch out for when it comes to the design side, the installation side, and really care and maintenance as well. We're hoping to help you prevent these things and give you an education that if any of these things do happen, to help you understand what the cause was. And I want to say this very clearly before we start. You know, we're tile people here. Tile rarely fails. 90% of claims and job failures are either the wrong installation materials being specified and used, or the wrong care and maintenance being used on site after the installation. We feel pretty strongly about that statement. So we're going to kick it off with our first topic of buckling. So I'm going to get a little cheesy on here. Tony and Marianne make fun of me a lot, so I like to work in the cheese to keep you guys engaged on these presentations. But when it comes to car safety, buckling is a great thing. We always say buckle up for safety, but when it comes to tile, not so much. And here it is right here. So buckling refers to the tiles that were originally installed flat and they have popped up, like you see in the image on the right. Buckling primarily occurs when movement joints are missing or they aren't placed properly. So there's a few key ways that you can prevent your projects from looking like this image. First, it's important to know that the design professional has the responsibility for calling out movement joints and laying out the floor patterns in the construction documents. An easy way to make sure that you do not forget is to turn the movement joint layer on the floor plan when you're laying out your patterns. I'm sure some of you have come across this and it felt like a minor detail ends up being a major miss and a construction nightmare. So along with making sure that the movement joints are built in, they should also continue through that tile work using a membrane of silicone or a soft joint. And don't forget about the movement joints that are needed around the perimeter of the space, columns, and curbs. And as you know, materials will expand and contract as a building settles. So for movement joint locations, it's best to follow TCNA's guideline, and the call out there is listed on the slide. Interiors 25 feet in each direction and exteriors 8 to 12 feet in each direction. Also for interior tile work that's exposed to direct sunlight and or moisture, the recommendation is 12 feet in each direction. So movement and expansion and contraction and other soft joints are required by ANSI A108 and defined in TCNA's handbook method EJ 171. And this specifically calls out the specifier to include the drawing or specification for location, width, depth, and material that must be used for soft joints. All right, next up, maintenance. So as we're thinking about what a successful installation entails, a huge and sometimes forgotten component is the maintenance of the product. The maintenance program should be discussed during the selection process between the design professional and the end user and the contractor. Really, anybody involved should be thinking about this. So let's start off with the fact that some things can go wrong here. Tile that hasn't been upkept in the right way, of course, looks extremely dirty. It can be a slip hazard. It can be incredibly unhygienic, and you can help reduce the probability of your specification looking like the picture on the bottom right. You do not want to specify a product that requires considerable maintenance if you do not have the staff to support it. And as a call out in our environment today, staffing is a major issue in the industry, so that you should consider. Be aware of types of colors to avoid, like extremely light colored tile, extremely dark solid colored tile. They are not always forgiving and they really don't hide anything. That is why in today's world, we have the visuals of wood and stone and concrete. And not only are they aesthetically pleasing, but they're functional and they hide dirt. So would you return to a place that had a floor that looked like the tile on the bottom right? I probably wouldn't. So some questions to consider are how much time do they allow to clean an area, or what type of traffic will be in the space? And of course, educate yourself and your client on the 5 steps of maintenance. So this is one of my favorite slides. Seems very basic, but a lot of times we miss this in the commercial spaces after they're installed. So tile is a low maintenance product, relatively speaking, and proper maintenance should be followed to maintain the beauty of the installation as well as slip resistance and safety. So some of the major issues can be resolved by following these 5 easy steps. So step number 1, clean with a neutral pH, all-purpose commercial cleaner. Pretty simple. You don't need to overthink it. Number 2, the brush is actually very important. Clean and scrub with cleaner solution with a cotton mop, a cloth sponge, or a non-metallic brush. Then consider vacuuming prior to mopping to remove any of that loose debris. That's going to help. Number 4, you probably did not know this, but mop water should actually be changed out every 500 feet, which I would guess is rarely done, but that is important. And then last but not least, clean water, not dirty water, should be used to rinse the area to remove any cleaning solution residue. So again, I realize this seems basic, but they're really key. It's very important, and that water change is very necessary. Some other issues we see from well-intentioned clients is using greasy mop water from the back of the house or the kitchen to the front of the house in the dining room. We don't want to do that. Using soapy water that leaves a residue on the floor can make the floor very slippery. Other things to consider: sealing a porcelain tile that does not need to be sealed can be an issue, like sealing an unpolished porcelain. And not protecting a newly installed floor during the construction process can also create dirt. It is important to specify the correct grout for the intended use of the type of tile, and that should be considered in the overall maintenance plan. And that segues me to Marianne. She's going to take it over and talk about grout.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So grout, as we all know, is a critical component of the tile installation, and there are several types designed for the intended use. As we all know, again, grout comes in various colors and shades, and it keeps your tile from expanding and shifting with the change in temperature and moisture level. So grout haze is one of those problems we unfortunately hear about soon after the installation. Grout haze is the film that has been left behind by the grouting process, making the tile look really cloudy or murky. We often see this when a dark color grout is used with a light color tile or the tile has a heavy texture. The main way to prevent this is with a grout release, which acts as a temporary sealer. So here are 3 ways you can prevent grout haze. Number 1, make sure you remove the excess grout after the initial curing period, not too soon and not too late afterwards. If it is past 72 hours, you can almost ensure grout haze. If using a cementitious grout, it needs to be removed with a solution containing sulfamic acid. Custom Building Products has a great product for this. And prior to grouting, you can apply a grout release to the tile that will allow the grout to be easily wiped off. All right, now on to lippage. Do you know what the #1 job complaint is for tile installation? Lippage. I've been in the tile industry for over 30 years, and this is the most common issue, and I want to make sure you all understand what it is, but more importantly, how to avoid it, right? So the substrate must be flat, not necessarily a level substrate. It is extremely important that you specify and budget for time and materials to create a flat subsurface and substrate. Identify the contractor that is required to create the flat substrate and expect to see their plan detailed and expenses applied for materials and labor in their proposal. If it is not in the proposal, consider their plan technically unqualified. Lippage is the unsightly difference in elevation between edges. I just cringe whenever I look at this. If you have ever been unfortunate enough to have a job complaint on this topic, you will most commonly hear something is wrong with the tile, it is warped. Now, tile warping is something that the industry used to battle more often, but that is more of an anomaly as the technology related to the production of tile has significantly improved. So it most likely isn't warpage, it's lippage. Lippage became apparent in the tile industry when the sizes became longer and larger. And when I say larger, I'm referring to anything with a side 15 inches or longer. I am showing you lippage on a wall installation, but this can also occur on floors, which is a huge tripping hazard. Some other things that lippage cause is that uneven appearance from shadows being cast. It can also increase the likelihood of the tile chipping or collecting dust. And all of this results in a frustrated client, which we all know is not a good thing to have. So lippage isn't something you can 100% eliminate, but you can certainly take steps to significantly minimize the appearance. It's really important to start with the right lighting. If the tile has poor lighting during the construction process, lippage will not be noticeable. Wall washing or installing lighting too close to the wall will highlight any imperfections. So it is best to place lights at least 12 to 24 inches away from a vertical surface. The next design element is the installation pattern. For wall tile under 15 inches in length, feel free to style away in your brick joint layout. For wall tile 15 inches or longer, avoid using a 50% overlay. Instead, use a 30% overlay or straight stack. Another thing you have in your control is selecting the proper grout color. Although it is tempting to try that cool Pinterest look of a white tile lined with black grout, this can create an illusion of lippage. So really stick to grout colors that closely match the tile. Again, it is also important that you are working from a level substrate and using the correct mortar.
And Marianne, I just want to chime in to make sure everybody heard that. There are 3 things, just 3. If you take away anything from this presentation, lighting, grout, and pattern are the 3 things that can impact your installation and cause lippage. So if you take away anything today, to me, that is the most important, because lippage is a daily complaint for us in the tile industry. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I just wanted to make sure everybody's listening.
Yeah, and I've been on too many job issues where they had poor lighting during the construction process. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so on to larger format tiles provide a clean, modern, and minimalist look. This seamless look is becoming more popular now more than ever due to the concern over cleanability in our interior spaces. As a reminder, large format is defined as longer than 15 inches, right? So yes, that even means our beloved 12 by 24 tiles. Although you get a really high-end finished look, there are some concerns along the way to be aware of when using large format tiles. Of course, we already covered lippage, but other things that can occur are stress cracks, where the tile cracks over time from traffic and building movement. We have also, unfortunately, seen adhesion failure, where on the floor, the tile will pop up, or even worse, on the wall, the tile comes crashing down. Not good. Shipping and handling also have to be taken into account, as these larger tiles are heavier and harder to handle, which means a 2-person job. Ideally, you also want to use rectified tiles, meaning that edges are perfectly square to ensure a monolithic look that can be paired with thinner grout joints. I know all of the issues we covered may seem a little overwhelming, but keep in mind these are all preventable, and again, that's what we are trying to provide you with today. So now on to preventive measures. We discussed movement joints when we covered buckling, and these help us prevent stress cracks. Another way to help with this is full coverage on the tile when back buttering. Back buttering also assists in ensuring the product stays in place, of course, paired with the correct setting materials. Again, write into your spec for qualified labor. This is incredibly important with any tile installation. The TCNA handbook is a great resource for this, as it provides a list of qualified installers like folks from the NTCA 5-star contractor program and organized networks of commercial contractors. Or just ask your Daltile rep, because we have great relationships with all of the top installers. So large format tile installation requires particular attention to proper substrate preparation, right? Grout joint sizing, trowel selection, and mortar coverage. When installing large format tile, there must be at least 80% coverage for interior applications and 95% for exterior. The LHT mortar, which stands for large and heavy, was formerly referred to as a medium bed mortar, which compensates for irregularities in the tile and the substrate. This is the mortar that has the ANSI designation of H appended to its overall specification. So for example, ANSI A118.15H is an improved modified dry set thin set with properties to support this large and heavy tile. So now I'm going to turn the final part of the presentation over to Tony.
Thank you so much, Mary Ann. And I'm going to talk about dynamic coefficient of friction. Slip, trips, and falls are the #1 legality we face in the tile industry. And understanding DCOF is one of the most important ways to help minimize these issues. DCOF, or dynamic coefficient of friction, is extremely important when needing to know which finishes to specify for the floor. The next couple of slides, I'm going to give you an overview of everything you need to know and set you up for success. Simply put, DCOF is the measurement of slip resistance. The standard DCOF as of 2012 is 0.42 for interior floors. And if you hear someone referring to COF or SCOF, that no longer exists. It is now DCOF. The SCOF wasn't as accurate as the test. DCOF testing measures conditions of walking on wet, soapy tile. Please know that this industry standard is tested on wet surfaces only. If you don't specify a tile that meets 0.42 DCOF, you could be facing a slip and fall lawsuit, and equally as bad, an upset client. Third-party organizations all note that it is the responsibility of the specifier to use the appropriate floor finish. Also, keep in mind that you do not need to overcompensate on DCOF. For example, a 0.7 or higher. Believe it or not, this can also lead to a trip and fall. 0.42 is there for a purpose. You only need a 0.6 for pool decking and a 0.65 for ramps and stairs. For more information on DCOF requirements, visit our website at www.daltile.com/DCOF. Have you been curious why manufacturers have launched finishes like satin, light polish, antique, and leathered, and say it can go onto the floors? Even with all these finish options, Daltile still recommends unpolished or matte for commercial floor applications. It's always better to be safe than sorry. But this brings up a good question. What is considered a wet area? It is not just kitchens and restrooms. It is also vestibules and even areas surrounding drinking fountains or interior water features. Make sure you're asking yourself all the right questions when selecting the right floor tile. We offer 3 things to increase DCOF to 0.6. Quarry tile, textured porcelain, and stepwise, which is our slip-resistant technology that we have standard on 7 of our series. The cool thing about stepwise is that it has a smooth finish, which keeps it easy to maintain and to clean. 2 things I want to quickly point out. There is a trend to mix finishes to achieve a desired tone-on-tone look. We do not recommend you doing this on the floor. If you have a stripe of unpolished, then a stripe of polished, and then a stripe of textured, the human brain cannot associate what you are walking on if the floor surface is constantly changing. It is a trip and fall hazard. If you would like to use this design trend, make sure you use it on a feature wall instead. Lastly, have you ever noticed most high-end hotel lobbies have polished natural stone floors, and you think to yourself, there's no way this is going to meet DCOF. The DCOF is only related to manufactured products. Each piece of natural stone would test differently. Therefore, it is not tested. We still recommend a whole natural stone, for floor applications, even though you see polished all the time. There are 4 basic types of tiles. Glazed, typically the most cost-effective, where the glaze is different color than the body of the tile. Color body, the most common because you get a consistent coloring tile body with the realistic visuals available through inkjet printing. Through body, which has limited options due to the cost to manufacture the same visual all the way through the tile. It's typically a solid or a speckle. And then you have double loaded, a version of through body where 2 pieces of tile are pressurized together. Again, it's somewhat limited. Here is where this comes into play as a specifier. You have to balance budget with life cycle performance. You may have a customer that wants a certain look for a certain price, and for a specific application that may or may not be doable. For example, I need an inexpensive floor tile with a wood visual for a high traffic area. We would need to educate this client that a glazed product, although cost effective, can chip, showing the body of the tile, which is a different color than the glaze. Installing a glazed tile in a high traffic area will make for an upset customer and potentially mean ripping it out and repairing in a year or less. Let us help prevent these situations and be an expert for your client through us. Let us make you look good. Make sure you validate all the information from all your manufacturers. Not all tile is equal. All of the information we shared with you today is from key resources. Again, lean on us as experts, but if there's one resource to have on your desk, I would highly recommend the TCNA handbook. And you can go to tcnatile.com. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar.
All right, you three, that was great. Lots of quick information. The nice thing is for a lot of contractors, it's a lot of review. It's a lot of review on things that we're talking about all the time. And I think for architects and designers, it's also a review and things they should definitely be keeping in mind. Normally at this time, I go through questions. I do have one question, and it really comes from one of our executive committee members, and he's asking, did he hear correctly that grout is used to keep tile from moving and locking it in place?
Grout? Yes.
Yeah.
So
no.
yes.
Okay. He misheard that then. I didn't hear it, but he thought he did. We just wanted to make sure. Definitely. So
yeah, so you can't install tile without thin set or some type of setting materials and then grout. We get asked a lot, can you dry stack? Can you just butt up tile without grout? And the answer is no. So
Correct.
That's where that comment came in the presentation.
Yeah, grout is more of a joint filler, right? It's there to obviously. It's very hard to make tiles exactly the same size as another tile, so you want to be able to install them with a little bit of room for error, and that's where the grout goes in. So
yeah,
I did have a question. So I come from a distribution background, and I think Marianne, you mentioned the fact of using a grout that's similar to the color of the tile, right? And but I will tell you, there are a lot of people that want contrasting grout, and we hear it a lot, we see it a lot, and I think probably a good idea for that is that understand that it is going to definitely reflect a little bit more the difference between the two, and just be aware of that, right?
Yeah, that's all we were trying to point out, is that if it can highlight any of those issues, particularly that lippage. So
yeah, and
I just wanted to clarify that because we're tile contractors, we're not the smartest, right. So and I'm not speaking for all the contractors. I'll be in trouble for that for sure. So
Marianne and Tony have heard me soapbox many a day, but when Pinterest launched black grout with white tile, it was the death of us because what that did is, even on a simple white subway tile backsplash in a residential application, you use black grout, it is going to look crooked. It will create almost an optical illusion of lippage, even though lippage isn't there. And so never mind the fact trying to clean the black grout off the face of the white tile. So it created a lot of installation issues out there, residentially and commercially. So we always say, match your grout. We don't want to see the grout. Grout is a functional component of the installation. We want the tile to speak, not the grout. And so if it's white tile, white grout. If it's black tile on the floor, black grout. So yes, it's been interesting with all the Pinterest trends. I love Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot. I do not have anything pinned in Pinterest with contrasting grout. I'll say that.
I just returned from a vacation in Alaska, and I stayed at a nice resort, and it was beautiful. And the tile work in the shower was 12 by 3 inch tile, white with black grout, and it showed everything. I felt really bad for the installer using that grout, because little teeny mistakes that if they'd used white grout or a light gray or something, it would not have shown, but that black showed everything. So
yeah,
I think it's one of the hardest grouts to use.
If you find yourself in the contractor's shoes with black grout specified with white tile, and the designer or the specifier won't budge, you can always try to compromise and meet them in the middle with a very light gray grout. That contrasts slightly. It's a little more forgiving on the eyes and highlighting the imperfections. So try to sell the light gray if they have to have a contrast. That's my recommendation.
All right, so just a comment on that. Grout and tile colors are constant battles with designers and lighting and GCs. We agree. We know. We all know that, definitely.
Can I get an amen?
Amen, right. Let's see what else we got here. You mentioned scaling porcelain tile was often not necessary. I think he meant sealing. Sealing porcelain tile was not often necessary.
Correct.
Could you expand on sealing a porcelain tile might be required, or when? Okay, it says Wednesday.
Okay.
When sealing a porcelain tile might be required or preferred? Or
I'll take this one. I'll take this one, Tony. So when it comes to sealing porcelain, it's actually the opposite of what you would think. That's my easiest way to explain it. You don't need to seal unpolished or matte porcelain. You actually have to seal polished porcelain. The reason is the polishing process during manufacturing actually opens up the pores of the tile and makes it more susceptible to staining and trapping stains. So you would think like, oh, it's polished, it doesn't need seal. It does. It's the opposite. Tony, I'm right on this, right? Polished porcelain
100%.
needs to be sealed. Unpolished porcelain does not need to be sealed. We should have,
right.
Yeah, this is being recorded, right? We should take that and just tell everybody.
It is being recorded. So the person that sent that in said he was driving. Sorry for the spelling. So
No, don't text and drive.
So there was a question on the LHT mortar, and they're asking, is it used to compensate for irregularities in the tile and or substrate? So can I answer that one real quickly?
Sure.
Absolutely.
LHT mortar is really made for a larger tile that might have a little bit more warpage or room between it. If you use regular thin set, it has a ability to shrink, and if you try to make it too thick, it will shrink and actually either pull away from the tile, leave a hollow spot, or actually break the tile. So using LHT, it is the proper for a large tile, so definitely. So do you have anything to add to that, Tony or Whitney or anyone?
No, I think you nailed it, and that's perfect. Well stated.
All right. Let's see here. It says that, someone made a comment that some polished tile will get stained by dark grouts, that it can actually stain from a darker grout. And there are microscopic pores in porcelain, and that definitely can happen. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
There are some new tiles that are presented as floor tiles without setting mix, but will need their own membrane and it's groutless. Is this something that has come across your desk, and is this something you try on a job? Did you understand that?
Somewhat. I have not heard of groutless tile. So if you would like to send Tony and Marianne and I what you're looking at, we would love to take a look. Do you know, have you seen something, Tony?
I have not, but I was going to say, is he talking about without setting it either? Is it like a Revo tile, floating system? So Daltile has a floating tile system that we use, but there is a grout. There is a specific grout that
we have to
go
use a
with it.
specific
And that grout
grout.
actually, yeah, and that grout is because it actually bends and flexes a little bit more than a cementitious grout.
Like a urethane grout, right? Something to that.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. It's a urethane-based grout.
Definitely. Yep. All right, we'll move on from that. Great suggestion. One of our attendees is saying, do a mock-up when contrasted grout is suggested, right? Show them what it looks like. Give them an opportunity to actually say, yeah, it's okay. Well, then it's okay. Go with it. But yeah, it's a great idea. All right, what got here? So someone asked about making this presentation available. Please note it is on the YouTube channel. It will be there within 72 hours. It will be up on our NTCA YouTube channel. If you send me an email, I can connect you to that at any time. My email address is jim@tile-assn.com. Let's see here. Dry set mortars are not intended to true or level substrates for the installation material. LHT equals large, heavy tile. Okay, just some comments. That's great. Out of curiosity, when handling large format porcelain tiles, is it similar to countertop porcelain slabs? I guess GPTP, gauged porcelain tile panels.
Yeah, so, you know, when we're talking about large format, we could be talking about a 24 by 48. That's 3/8 inch thick, like a typical thickness of porcelain. That can be considered large format. But absolutely, we need to be thinking about setting materials and the correct ones for thin gauge porcelain panels, which ours are called panoramic, is what we refer to as the Daltile version. But yeah, these are slabs or panels more so than just tiles. So I don't really know what the question was, but
they're the
yes.
largest of large format tile, right?
Yeah, but they're thin.
Definitely.
They're, you know, yeah, 5 to 6 millimeters, not a typical thickness of a tile.
Yes, very much so. Definitely. The last question or comment I have, question I guess, would the glossy porcelain slabs have micro pores also?
Yes.
They do. Yes, they do.
Yeah, they go through a polishing process too, which opens up those pores, more susceptible to staining.
All right, so here we have a comment. Daltile, minute mosaic do not need to be grouted, but that is because they are for walls.
Okay.
All right, that's a
we
Daltile.
We do have minute mosaics.
I'm sure.
Yeah, you got it.
So,
there's one we do on a wall.
Okay, you got us there. So Tony
job,
and Marianne and I don't know if you will go back to the headshot slide. We're all on the commercial team. That is a residential dealer product. So absolutely, they do have that. Yeah, they do. So you got us on that one.
Well, when you go to NTPA, you're talking to commercial and residential. So
yeah.
We got it. And so, you know what, that's what's nice about a webinar or this type of situation. You can have your attendees answer some questions, help us out a little bit. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. That is all the questions. Oh, here we go. Here's another one.
Oh, no.
2 more. Oh, Mike Michelizzi, please retype that in because I deleted it. So sorry about that. A few people are saying thank you, and they're going to leave here, and I'll see if Mike types this in real quick or not. But again, lots of great information, and it's really important to continue to review this information and keep it in your mind as we're working with this. This comes from one of our manufacturers of setting materials says it's always better with grout. So
cheers to that. Cheers to that.
I love it. I love it. And another thank you. And everybody, all 3 of you, great job. And I hope to see you at TSP or coverings coming up soon. And as our world hopefully is getting back to normal, we look forward to also seeing all of you attendees. Thank you for being here today, attendees. I want to let you know our next webinar is on September, what is it? September 6th. So a little over a week, about a week away. An invite will be coming out later this week, and like to see you all there. So again, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy what's left of this summer as fall's coming soon. So thanks everybody. Take care.
Okay.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you, Tim.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.